that the about 7 billion tons of carbon dioxide, which results from the burning of fossil fuels, has an effect of overall warming in nature. You can show that it does in a closed experiment where you control everything. But nature is not that controllable. Moreover, although we do produce about 7 billion tons of carbon dioxide annually, nature produces about 200 billion tons. Do our 7 billion tons override all of that additional 200 billion that nature produces? No. If the Earth is going to warm or if the Earth is going to cool, it will do it according to its own natural processes, beginning with activities on the sun. And we know that the sun burns not constantly, but it flickers. Sometimes it is a little hotter than other times. It has storms and sunspots and so on. And many of these things that we can measure go in cycles according to, or at least they seem to be, in some relationship to the cycles of storms and sunspots and so on. That doesn't mean that one causes the other. You know, in Western Europe, for a number of years, the number of births of human babies has been declining. So has the population of storks. But that doesn't mean that storks bring babies. No. And too often, in this big area of environmental charges and accusations and so on, the fact is the two things occur at about the same time, being used as if one causes the other. We cannot say that in nature the increases of carbon dioxide, which we can measure, have caused the Earth to warm up. Although those two things happened at about the same time in the past, a very careful analysis shows that when the Earth has warmed a little bit, usually the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere follows along behind the warming, does not precede it, and therefore could not be the cause. Even so, politicians believe that the Earth is warming up, and therefore an international treaty on climate change has been signed, and this requires that all nations control the amount of carbon dioxide put into the atmosphere. That's the reason they're trying to put an energy tax on us. Any tax on energy of any kind whatsoever, trying to control carbon dioxide or carbon emissions of any sort, will have a devastatingly negative impact upon our economy. It should be resisted in all possible ways. And finally, there is the ozone depletion. Is the ozone being destroyed in the stratosphere? Yes and no. Why do I say that? Because it's being destroyed all the time and it's being replaced all the time. Where does the ozone come from? It comes from ultraviolet light from the sun, striking the oxygen in the stratosphere, breaking the oxygen molecule apart into two atomic oxygens, which immediately latch onto another molecule of oxygen, making O3, and that's ozone. It's being produced at a prodigious rate whenever ultraviolet light strikes the stratosphere. It's also breaking down, because ozone is not a very stable molecule. It can interact with other chemicals in a stratosphere, go through chemical breakdown. It can also be broken down photochemically by other, by other wavelengths of ultraviolet. And so we have whatever you can measure at any one time is the balance between the amount of ozone being produced and the amount of ozone being destroyed. There is a time at the South Pole when you can measure that and you find that the amount of ozone is way down. Why is that? Because it happens just at the end of the Antarctic winter when the sun's below the horizon, and therefore no ultraviolet, therefore no production of ozone. As soon as the sun rises again, and that phenomenon of the so-called Antarctic ozone hole lasts for only 3 to 5 weeks, and it's rebuilt because the sun comes up again, ultraviolet light strikes the oxygen, makes more ozone, and there we are. These are natural phenomena. They've been going on forever. These, particularly these last two, the international treaties by which we are beginning to abide, will cost our economy hundreds of billions of dollars, perhaps even into the trillions. Because in order to, supposedly, to protect the ozone of the stratosphere, well, the international treaty has already banned the production of the refrigerant which is the basis for all of our refrigeration and air conditioning, namely Freon. In recent months, the cost of Freon has gone from 50 cents a pound to about $10 a pound. By next year, it won't be available. What do we do then? Something else. We can go back, of course, to using ammonia or sulfur dioxide for refrigeration systems. They were banned because they were so dangerous. That's why we had Freon. We have a very serious problem with respect to refrigeration when we remember that our entire food industry, transportation, marketing, storage, all depends upon refrigeration. And so many other activities the same way. Many of the places in this country, particularly in the South, would not be inhabitable without air conditioning. The cost of air conditioning is beginning to soar. And so we have these treaties that are requiring enormous costs. What can we do about it? Only if people will bring pressure upon the Senate of the United States to wake up, look at what we've been doing in the environmental area, and ask the question, when is enough enough? Have we gone overboard? Are we spending too much for benefits that can't really be measured as being all that big? Because when our economy begins to falter, we will certainly lose our liberty and our freedom as surely as if we should lose it in war. And when one's freedom is lost, one is right to blame not so much the man who puts the fetters on as he who had the power to prevent it did not use it. You know who said that? It was said by the Corinthian representatives of Sparta, and the year was 426 BC. It is still true today. If we who care about our country, who care about our freedom, do not continue to fight for it and begin to insist that some of the actions that have been taken be rescinded and changed to the benefit of our economy, then we will have only ourselves to blame. Thank you all very much.
That was great. That was great. That was great. I don't think we want to clutter it up with questions. Your questions won't be as smart as what the answers you already gave.